Hello, hello, Minjie students. Let's get going. Just reviewing some of these things. Lisa asks, can we touch base with you when I assume we make a formula to feel more confident when we give the herbs? That probably won't be possible, Lisa, considering how many formulas you're going to probably be making and also how many formulas I have to be making all the time. So we can check in. We'll find a format to do something like that for when you have the questions, okay? But again, it's really important if you have any questions at all around any of this, ask someone when we're here in the class, because this is a format, this is the time. We have to look at the timing of all of these things, huh? This is when we have the opportunity to do that. And so you're going to come up with questions over time, write them down, do whatever, and we'll find a way to discuss these, I guarantee, okay? Especially as we're getting more into practicing this and the practicalities of it. We'll find some kind of a more regular format that we can do that in, okay? Because I really appreciate that you guys are taking this on seriously, and I know that it's not easy to do. And so I will find a way. We'll find a way to get some kind of regular feedback, but it definitely can't happen with every formula, you guys, because we're not in like a clinical situation like that, okay? But we'll find a way to get more regular feedback, okay? All right, so last night's homework. Yesterday afternoon, we started going a little bit into clear heat, dry dampness category. It's a very small category, but a very important one. And I had us draw out the category itself, that territory of the category, and we found that we had this gaping hole in the Sanjiao and pericardium departments. So again, it's really good. I want you to practice doing these drawings, and they don't have to be complicated. They can be really simple. But what we're doing is we're learning how to define what the territories are of herbs and even of formulas. It's the same thing. There are only 12 possibilities, really. Or maybe if we include the Ren and the Du and the Chong, you know, maybe 13 or 14 possibilities, but those lines just get thicker and thicker. When I say there are only 12 possibilities, what I mean is there are only 12 regular channels. So we just need to learn how to draw those, and then we make those lines thicker and thicker and thicker when we draw our things. But it's really important to get this tactile and visual sense of what's going on with these territories, because you'll learn as you do it. We all learn as we do it, and it helps to take that complexity of the actual territories when we start putting them together, because our minds, most of us have this limited capacity to visualize things in our minds unless we consciously develop that through some kind of practice. So when we can see it and draw it ourselves, then it helps us to understand more dimension to what the territory of an herb or a formula might be. Okay, so in any case, we've been sort of sitting with this category for the last few hours since yesterday afternoon. And what we're going to do today is we're going to practice some formulas and some combinations by picking an herb like we did yesterday with the Xiaogucao. And what we've done that with each of the categories so far. So what I'm doing is I'm picking a very common and very representative herb of a category. And we're going through and we're scanning for what the best synergists might be with each one, with these herbs that we're picking. Now, keep in mind, we could do this with any herb. We could do this with any herb, but I'm just picking ones that I like because they're really clinically useful they're available, and they're cheap. That's usually those are usually the criteria for that successful practice. But not just because they're cheap, but if they happen to be really useful and they happen to be inexpensive, then great, let's use them. We have to, I've talked about this before. We really have to get out of our idea of using the best herb for everything. Sometimes we don't want to drive that Ferrari, right? If we're going on a backpacking trip through the mountains, we don't want to go four-wheel driving with our Ferrari, do we? No, it's only for certain specific conditions, okay? So we want to get the right tool for the job. And it doesn't mean always that it's the most expensive and super powerful herb. No, think about blandness, Blandness isn't super powerful, but sometimes it's exactly what we need to get rid of all that excess water. So we want to look for getting the right tool for the job, and don't think about what the cost is. That's important, because that colors our idea. Okay, so I'm going to pick an herb for us for this clear heat and dry dampness category, and that herb is going to be huangbai. Okay, again, I'm picking huangbai because it's simple, it's very readily available, and we use it a lot for different things. So I want to give us some ideas of different dimensions of huangbai, okay? And after we do this exercise, kind of like with xiaogucao, now our Sherma was all excited about using xiaogucao, so she bought like 100 bottles of it or something, right? So that's good. That's how we learn. So we'll get excited about huangbai as we do this process. All right. So what do we know about huangbai? Let me put it up for you. We'll begin this process. Again, it's a seemingly simple herb. But the beauty is in how we learn how to combine it. Okay, so hopefully you guys are seeing huangbai now. Okay, and I've got the chat up so I can see that. Very good. I don't need to see that. Very good. Okay, so huangbai, simple herb, right? It's just bitter and cold. Kidney, UB, and large intestine. So we have some interesting synergies built right into huangbai right here. We've got that Biao-Li relationship, plus that kidney large intestine relationship, plus this hidden large intestine UB relationship that we've talked about, which is one of our branch relationships. That monkey relationship that we don't get to see too often. So right off the bat, we know we can use huangbai for some interesting things. We look at the huangbai and we see that we've talked before about this clinical situation that I know I see very frequently with people, where there's this sort of translation of pathology from the UB into the large intestine and vice versa. It can happen both ways. So huangbai is a really principal herb that we can use in treating that. And then we have the kidney supporting both of those other things, or we can also look at we're treating the kidney primarily, and we got this sort of double fu that's helping to take stuff away from the kidney as well. So we can look at it in both of those ways. Either the kidney is supporting these fu, or that the kidney has a double fu, taking pathology out away from. Okay, so I want to ask you all, remember our basic process. When we look at an herb, we want to say, what does huangbai do? So I'm asking you an authentic question here. What does huangbai do? And I don't want a list of symptoms. I want a list of functions. Okay, what does it do just based on what we're looking at right here? Okay, so we can say that huangbai colds. Remember, we're using these temperatures as verb. So huangbai colds, it cleans, disperses, and descends. How do we know that? Just from what we're looking at. Okay, colds, it cleans, disperses, and descends. We know all of that from the bitter. Hmm. Where does Huangbai go? Goes through the kidney, the UB, and the large intestine. Okay, so right off the bat, I want you guys to just spend a moment and draw the territory of Huangbai. Here we go. Let's see, where's the kidney channel really start? Oh, at the bottom part of the big toe, then it goes over like that. And go up the leg. Ooh, and then it goes right next to the rim, doesn't it? It winds up in the chest. Eventually, it's going to connect with the pericardium. Okay, now we do the other side. Let's draw this nicely. Comes right up, almost to the midline, up into the chest. Okay, cool. That's kidney. Okay, so I'm even taking time as I'm describing. Okay, now the UB. How are we going to draw the UB in relationship to the kidney? And go down like that. One side and the other side, yeah, goes down like that, and then it's got that double line that goes down the back, all the way down the legs, and it crosses like that. Here we go with the UB. Cool. Then it converges again and comes out the little toe. Oh, look at that. And it joins right back where the kidney started. And then large intestine. Then we go all the way up here. Large intestine. Up there in the hand, goes up the arm, comes into the body, connects with the lungs, doesn't it? Goes down and connects with the large intestine, comes up through the clavicle, comes up, crosses over. We got that other channel that crosses over the top like that. Then come up the other arm like that, up the throat, across the philtrum, and then around like that. Okay, so you should have sometime very soon an interesting looking, kind of beautiful stick figure of the territory of Huangbai. Okay, so right away, when we draw out this territory, we can say, we can see, and we can say that we can use Huangbai for things not just in the lower jiao, but also in the shoulder, anterior aspects of the arms, the shoulder, certain areas in the throat and the neck, certain areas of the jaw and the teeth, coming up into the sinuses, those lower sinus areas in there. We can do that with the large intestine. We can also think of using large intestine for treating the lung because it connects with the lung, right? Okay, and we also know that UB connects with the lung too, doesn't it? Aha. So maybe Huangbai has some rather strong lung connections that we could use to treat in that way as well. Kidney UB, kidney large intestine. We can definitely go down the large intestine route with Huangbai, which a lot of people do. But a lot of times people think of the Huangbai just as like a kidney or a UB herb. But the reason why I'm talking about it in this way, a little bit flexibly, is there are these different ways that we can look at it. Sure, we can use it as a UB herb, then primarily bonding with the kidney there, but we could also use it as a kidney herb, primarily bonding with actually both of these foo, or we could use it as a large intestine herb. Large intestine herb to bond with the kidney there, right? But then I was saying also that when I see large intestine and UB together, I also think lung. So that's the thing. When we look at these territories, we want to start thinking, okay, how are we going to use these herbs? What can we pivot them with? Well, how can we put them together like those interesting block toys that people use to snap together those Lego toys, right? We can make different Lego patterns with the herbs. So we want to see how do we connect them, so like those connectors, they can connect in all these different ways. This is our advantage as balance practitioners. We know how to do this. So I want us to start thinking that way more and more, okay? All right, so we know the territory. So what can we do with Huangbai? Again, just go back to what this very simple thing that we're looking at right here. Okay, what can we do with Huangbai? So these are the questions. What does Huangbai do where does Huangbai go? Okay, and then what can we do with Huangbai? Well, we can cold, clean, disperse, and descend the kidney, UB, and large intestine channels. Okay, so we could spin a whole group of symptoms out from just that description there. And we only know that based on what we know of the 3 T's. So that's the essential knowledge that you're going to have for every single herb. The instant you look at it, you can come up with a little stanza about what that herb does. And then you can start applying that stanza to all different kinds of things. So, kidney rooster connect with lung. Yeah, kidney rooster does connect with lung as well. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So that rooster is the lung and kidney connection. Okay, so what can we do with Huangbai? We can cold, clean, disperse, and descend the kidney, UB, and large intestine channels. All right. So give me some practical applications for that, for all of those things. What are some syndromes that we might use it for? Well, for sure, we could use it for UB infections, like everybody does. But what else? We might be able to use it for treating certain kinds of lung infections because of that lung association. We could use it also for certain large intestine situations, especially if there's some kidney fire, damp heat in the large intestine. Yeah, so let's, for sure, damp heat in the large intestine, we can use it for that. And we want to say, okay, plus probably some kidney fire because that kidney is in there also. Or maybe like I was talking about earlier, maybe some kind of congestion that's happening maybe in the prostate that's affecting the large intestine. It's transferring over into large intestine. Other things like that, Or kidney heat that is irritating the large intestine. That can happen as well. All of these different possibilities. So who's the ideal patient for Huangbai? Just think of that for a moment. Who's the ideal patient? So it would be somebody who has heat in the kidney, UB, and large intestine channels. So what is that person going to look like? Just think in your mind, what's that person going to look like? Heat in the kidney. It's that chronic heat in the kidney. What's that going to do? It's going to start shriveling that kidney channel. So they're probably going to have a kind of an arched back in the beginning, but then they'll be really hunched over when it gets chronic and super depleted. Like that. So the kidney and the UB also have a kind of a Chen-Ho relationship, don't they? Absolutely, they do. So these Chen-Ho relationships are what keep us erect. They're what keep us going straight up and down. And they keep us in our vertical axis. So this ideal patient for Huangbai, he or she could have like a strong wet heat congestion in the lower jiao. Their fluid system might be compromised in the whole lower jiao area. They could have constipation or diarrhea, couldn't they? They could maybe have throat or eye or even brain infections. I didn't notice that anybody brought up anything about the brain. Remember, the UB goes directly into the brain and has very strong associations with the eye system. It's the basis and the origin of the eye system, okay? So we always want to think brain with Huangbai, like that, okay? So kidney, UB, large intestine are the channels that we can treat, okay? How do we optimize for the kidney channel? Well, we go to any of our charts, and there's a certain set of optimize for kidney, certain set of channels that we're going to use. All right, so we can use the kidney, we can use the heart, we can use the Sanjiao, we can use the UB, we can use the large intestine, we can use the pericardium. Okay, so I bolded these ones already because these are the channels that Huangbai already goes through. So since we know that Huangbai already goes through these channels, if we can find other herbs that go through the heart, the Sanjiao, the pericardium. Then, and possibly these other herbs as well, or these other channels as well, then we're going to have something that's really, really optimizing for the kidney. So we're just going to say we are focusing right now on the kidney system, like that. So we can go farther in our optimization and say that specifically we are looking for herbs that go through, again, just in talking about optimizing for the kidney, when we are combining Huangbai, okay, we're going to be looking especially for herbs that go through the heart, the Sanjiao, the pericardium. Well, since we see Sanjiao and pericardium here, that is going to be pretty interesting because guess what? That's where we discovered there was a hole in this category yesterday, right? When we were doing an analysis of all the channel associations. So this is really important to know that we're going to need to haul in herbs from other categories to help Huangbai out in this department, just if we want to optimize for the kidney. There's only maybe, I think less than 10 herbs that we have between the pericardium and the Sanjiao together. So that makes that subset pretty easily. So we're probably going to be looking a lot at the heart herbs here. Okay. So we're going to be looking for those channels, and then also the channels that Huangbai already goes to, the kidney, UB, and large intestine, if we want to start stacking for power. Okay, so again, the stacking is really what's going to create your larger formulas, and we stack to emphasize different kinds of qualities in our formula. Okay, that's super, super simple. All right. So it's going to be slim pickings to find good synergists here, but we don't need very many either. So let's just start taking a look with our handful of Sanjiao herbs. Let's go to our Mingjie Formula Companion Volume 4. We'll look up Han Xiaoyang Sanjiao herbs. Okay, and we start looking for Sanjiao herbs that also go to the kidney and the heart, the UB, large intestine, pericardium channels as well, hopefully, so we can begin to build synergies wherever we can. Okay. So surprise, surprise, our first synergist that pops up is our old friend and Mingjie companion, Man Jingzi. Okay, why is this a good synergist? Because it has both the UB and the Sanjiao. Okay, and we're looking for, those are two on our list. So is it a slam dunk? No, but it's a very interesting combination here, okay? And if you start thinking about, we could combine it for some of our other possibilities also, but we won't go there now, right? Because right now we're just focused on the kidney, okay? So there's not a whole lot of synergies here, just a couple of them, but the one that really sticks out, and those of us who've been studying Mingjie medicine for a while, probably jumping up and down, exultation right now, right? Because we discovered a rare and valuable branch relationship, and that's with the high pig relationship, which is the UB and the Sanjiao. Okay, that's a very, very rare branch relationship in terms of herbs. It's not rare in terms of how often it comes up. We find the UB Sanjiao pathologies coming up. Remember, Sanjiao controls water, and UB is primary with that also. So we do see the Sanjiao UB come up. And interestingly, Man Jingzi is right there to help us treat it. Okay, so this is another one of our branch relationships. When do we use that high pig relationship? Okay, we use them when symptoms happen during the time window, for sure. Okay, so that time window for the high pig relationship is between 9 p.m. and 10:59 p.m. Okay, So it's the UB and the Sanjiao. It's the pig relationship. Okay. Also, anytime both of these channels are involved in the patient's pathology. Okay, so that does happen. All right, so this is what our formula is going to look like. Or is it a formula? Let's see. Let's see. Optimizing for the kidney. Let's start putting all those channels together. See what it looks like. Do we have a formula? Is it just a combination? What is it? Let's see. Okay, kidney UB, large intestine, lung. Yeah, it looks like a formula to me. Why? Because we have both hand and foot, yin and yang. Okay. Yeah, even if it doesn't come together neatly into one of the systems, if you have hand and foot, yin and yang, then it's a basic formula. Okay, and then after that, it can be more refined formula in a particular direction. All right. So at first glance, it looks like we picked a lot of extra channels here with the Manjingzi for no good reason. Okay, that's true. Okay, because the synergies for the kidney actually are not that strong here. But if we really need to use and include the Sanjiao in our kidney formula using Huangbai, we could do it with the Manjingzi, okay? So yeah, there are extraneous channels here. Is it the best target? Well, it depends on what we're treating. Okay, so maybe like if there's something like there's wet heat in the Sanjiao channel all around the ear, okay, or wet heat was what's the word I'm looking for? Pervasive, all throughout the Sanjiao channel, all through the Shaoyang, also. Okay, we want to bring Huangbai's effects into the areas it wouldn't normally get into, wouldn't we? Okay, so we have to remember, every herb is a guiding herb. Every herb in the formula is a guiding herb, okay? And so that's why we're going to wind up guiding our formulas depending on our treatment principle according to the channels that we use, okay? So every herb is a guiding herb, so we can help the functions of some herbs by the other herbs that we combine with them in order to help to bring them through the areas that we want. So we could use Manjingzi in that way, connecting through the UB. There's another factor also, the liver, the Sanjiao, and the stomach. Look at that. Liver, Sanjiao, and the stomach. I start thinking of, that allows us to distill in a strong pericardium factor, doesn't it? And the kidney connects with both the Sanjiao and the pericardium, doesn't it? So maybe the connection here is actually stronger than we first thought it was. So at first it looks like there are all these irrelevant channels. But then when we start looking at it more deeply, again, I want to make sure you get this, okay? Liver, Sanjiao, and stomach. Oh my God, we've got 3 synergists for the pericardium, far out. Okay, so we just distilled in the pericardium. So, and especially because pericardium is on our list, we want both Sanjiao and pericardium. So we have actually a very strong connection here with Manjingzi and the kidney. So that's fantastic. Okay, and Huangbai's large intestine tropism also fits well with Manjingzi's lung and liver and stomach tropisms, doesn't it? Right? That large intestine is going to go really well with the lung, it goes really well with the liver, and it goes really well with the stomach. So that's another way that this formula kind of tightens, a very simple formula, sort of tightens up here. So these herbs actually work quite well together to clear wet heat from any of these channels, all right? Especially the origin of the heat is generating from the kidney and the UB systems, all right? Especially we can use for the eyes, ears, nose, and mouth, okay? So this is a combination that I guarantee not many people are going to be using outside of the Mingjie world, but you can understand the logic of why it would be very, very effective, because there are all these different kind of profound synergies that are going on here, okay? So Huangbai plus Manjingzi is very, very viable for treating eye, ears, nose, and mouth and a bunch of other stuff too. We could spend until lunch going through all the different possible applications here. Okay, so we're combining the bitterness. There's some acridity with the manjingza also, so it's going to be activating and cleaning. And that manjingza, remember, has that unusual quality of being both cool and warm at the same time, plus Huangbai's coldness. So the manjingza is really going to be activating that that Huangbai as we haul it around to different places in the body here. Okay. Okay, we could also do another combination, which is a little more obvious. Huangbai plus Chaihu. Wow, that's a really interesting combination. Pericardium and Sanjiao both. So we've got some really good kidney synergists there, okay? Not so much because that there are that many thrilling synergies, okay? And none of these are stacking here along the kidney line. None of them are stacking, okay? All right, but the kidney does connect with both the pericardium and the Sanjiao. And since this happens so rarely, it's not easy to find herbs that go through both of these channels at the same time. So again, because it's so rare, and also because it's really easy to find heart herbs that connect with a lot of the other channels that we want, Chaihu might fit into stacks quite handily. Okay, what would I use it for? This particular combination, probably something like a strong liver and kidney wet heat that isn't allowing for good circulation up into the chest and the head. Okay, also for some kinds of STDs. That's what most people would say, use for the STDs. Okay, but remember, kidney and liver wet heat that isn't allowing for good circulation up into the chest and the head. That's what the Chaihu is bringing us, with this pericardium Sanjiao. That's the chest part, and the liver and the gallbladder strong in the head, plus the UB strong up to the head, plus large intestine strong up to the head, okay? And the kidney even up into the throat a little bit, but through the chest. So the kidney is going to be emphasizing this pericardium Sanjiao in the chest, okay? Now, let's see, if heat were getting stronger, if heat was getting stronger as an issue here, I would combine Huangbai with the Shanzhizhi. Okay, so here we've got the heart and the Sanjiao. Okay, again, nothing stacking here. Is it a formula? Is it a formula? Let's see here. Let's see how this stacks up. Wow, yeah, it's actually kind of a interesting formula. Let's take a look. So hand yang, we got large intestine and Sanjiao. Hand yin, we got lung and the heart. Foot yin, we got kidney and liver. And foot yang, we got UB and the stomach. So that's a kind of a double formula in some ways. Okay, and this formula also distills in the pericardium too, doesn't it? With the stomach, the Sanjiao, and the liver. Stomach, Sanjiao, and the liver. Very, very interesting. Okay, so maybe some of these holes that we're seeing get addressed in some interesting ways, even though at first glance, when we look at the channel associations, it looks like there are these big gaping holes. there might be other ways to pull the functions of these channels in, or to pull the channels themselves in. Okay, all right. So we're distilling in the pericardium here, especially since we have that whole neighborhood going with the lung and the heart tropisms already. So anytime you have the lung and the heart tropisms, especially if you got any of these other pericardium tropisms going on, then it's easy to say that pericardium is going to be a part of the picture. Okay. All right. And plus, remember, we learned from the Bancao Wanda Shanzhizhi looks like a pericardium. So some practitioners claim that it actually does go to the pericardium itself. So what would I use this combination for? Wet heat or just plain heat in the kidney that's reaching up and disturbing the chest and the heart and the pericardium. Definitely. Yeah, wet heat or just sort of any kind of heat, depending on if it's more to the wet side, then I would use more Huang Bai. If it's more just to the, if it's just heat or some kind of deficiency heat, maybe just a little bit of the Huang Bai probably, okay? But it's heat in the kidneys for sure, and it's reaching up and disturbing the heart and the pericardium areas. We could use like that. Also, let's not ignore this Yang Ming factor here with the large intestine and the stomach. So we could use it maybe for kidney heat that's affecting Yang Ming in some way, maybe drying, not for drying it out, but if it's a wet heat that's affecting both the kidney and the Yang Ming. We're using Yang Ming to take that heat and the wetness out as well. Okay, it works both ways, remember. All right. Okay, so if the wet heat is really bothering the large intestine, and maybe the patient's getting hot diarrhea, and it's gone to a really extreme degree, and they have some delirium also. I might combine with something like this. This is a cool herb that is very readily available. Okay, that's the purslane. A lot of times you see that in the Greek salads. Ma Qirshian. It's very good for the wet heat in the large intestine and that hot diarrhea, especially with tenesmus. Okay, but also if there's some delirium, why do I say that? Because it's clearing the heat so effectively, and it's also very cold. But also because we have the Yubi and the Sanjiao and all of this stuff that's clearing the heat out the large intestine, and doubling up on the large intestine, clearing heat out of the head. Okay. Maybe wetness doesn't play such a strong role in this next picture, but it's more about the heat. We could use Ma Qirshian like that. We could also use this other herb, which is one of our favorites from way back when. This unusual herb is the Cha-Chir Huang. Like that. Why? Because this is a Sanjiao herb. And a large intestine Sanjiao herb. We use the Cha-Chir Huang. We talked about that when we're looking for those 3 hand-yang channels. Difficult because we don't have a single herb that goes through 3 hand-yang channels, but something goes through the large intestine, the Sanjiao, can easily be combined with something that goes through the small intestine if we want to treat those 3 hand-yang channels. Okay. So that's not easy to find. So remember Cha-Chir Huang, okay, because that large intestine Sanjiao is really important territory that we want to be able to cover. So I'd use this combination for kidney, UB, large intestine heat for sure. And the kidney and the UB and large intestine, they, like we were saying before, a lot of times it transfers energy back, and pathology is also back and forth between those 3, often involving the prostate or the uterus. So when we're looking at uterine and prostate problems, this large intestine UB is very, very frequently a factor. Okay. Again, that's our high relationship, our pig relationship, all right? So these Sanjiao herbs, even though we only have a few of them, it turns out to be a lot more useful than we might have imagined originally, right? They're really useful. Okay, now, here's another herb that I'm quite fond of. Let's do another combination here. Which is going to give us a slam dunk. That's the Hanfangji. This is the Stephania. Hanfangji. Let's take this away, so we're not looking at that. Now, what does this combination of channels give us? Let's see. This is looking like this. Okay. So all, look at this is slam dunk. We have almost everything that we want in this kidney optimization, don't we? Kidney, yes. UB, yes. Large intestine, yes. So we are stacking the UB, we're stacking the kidney. We've got the Sanjiao also, okay. And the Yangqiao we can even include largely with the UB. There's a lot of those things, but it's transitioning a little bit with some of those Yangqiao points. Also include some of the gallbladder points in there, which would also synergize with some of the Sanjiao. So this is also a formula because we got both the hand and foot, yin and yang. Okay, it's a great formula for, I would say, an acute hot arthritic attack, like we were talking the other day. But especially in the legs, okay, especially if there's a lot of swelling, okay, acute arthritic attack, especially in the legs, and if there's a lot of swelling, okay, because that Hanfangji is really good to open the channels in the lower vessels, and it takes a lot of the water out, particularly in the lower areas of the legs, okay. We could also use it for acute arthritic swelling in the neck, couldn't we? In the neck with that Sanjiao, and also with the UB. We can use like that, okay? Maybe herpetic breakouts in any of those areas also. Could use it in that way for herpetic breakouts, using that coldness. Even Hanfangji is a very cold herb, so it's really going to take things into the cold. Activating, so we have this combination of the acrid and the bitter, so it's activating and cleaning as well. So if you want to tonify kidney yang in somebody who already has like wet heat STDs, this happens, right? They might have these wet heat STDs, but they're totally yang deficient. So that's all congested there in the lower jiao. You know, I know up in Northern California, we have a lot of people that go to Burning Man and they come back with exactly this situation, right? Yang deficiency plus multiple STDs, and they feel like their friends and their lovers will unfriend them on social media if they can't keep up with their community sexually, right? So you do your best to help them out, okay? So we use this combination to help them out. And that would be, give them what they want, which would be Huang Bai plus, I laugh at this combination, plus the Yin Yang Huo, okay? Huang Bai plus the Yin Yang Huo. So look at all those great synergies, the super synergies there, We're stacking the kidney, plus we got large intestine and the Sanjiao going. We're stacking the large intestine also is probably a good idea in this case, Great synergies. But There's only one problem, okay, with the Huangbai plus the Yin Yang Huo combination. The problem is if we give our patients the medicine that enables them to go right back and recreate their problem, that problem that they came in to begin with, right? Are we really helping them or are we harming them? Okay, are we just enabling them to continue to harm themselves more? That's a really important ethical question, all right? That should be an important consideration when you're treating everybody really, but certain kinds of people, especially the people have addictive tendencies, or if they're just getting involved with stuff that's just a mess and there's very little chance that any good is going to come out of it for them. Okay, especially with the burner crowd. Okay, so there, I can actually imagine a couple of other scenarios where we might want to use this combination. You could use this combination maybe prophylactically before an orgy, right? But possibly if the kidney system was really shut down and really yang deficient, okay, plus a wet heat illness in that same area, and the patient just won't be able to make it through without receiving some kind of emergency aid in both of those arenas. That is a possibility here with the Huangbai and the Yin Yang Huo, both at the same time. Okay, this is just kind of a funny combination because it just has trouble stamped all over it. Okay, here's a combination I would not use. Okay, in a situation like that, I would not use this particular herb if it's a yang deficiency plus the wet heat. Okay, so it's important to also sometimes talk about herbs that you wouldn't want. I wouldn't use this combination for that. Why? Because it's hot and it's toxic, okay? Whereas the yin yang huo is just warm. But it's pretty, and it's got the yin yang huo also has that sweetness, so it's a little bit supportive. But the Xianmao is just hot and toxic, even though it might have some qualities that we want, like the Sanjiao, but I would avoid it in this kind of a situation because of that heat and the toxicity. Okay, so let's keep honing things down. It's important to know what we don't want to do as well, huh? So also the Xianmao has a little bit of an astringent quality to it as well. So we wouldn't want to be holding on to any pathology in that kind of a situation, okay? So let's keep honing things down and look a little more for pericardium, all right? So how often do we use the pericardium channel or the Sanjiao channel when we're doing acupuncture? We use them all the time, right? So that's how often you're going to be using these herbs, okay? Because why would you do anything differently between your acupuncture and your herbs? That's my whole point. We want to do the same thing. We want to have the coherency between our herbal formulas and our acupuncture formulas. The more coherent we can be between those things, the more resonance we'll have with the patient and the more they'll be helped. Okay? All right. So remember, what are we looking for? We're looking for optimizing for the kidney, okay? And we can go farther in optimizing for the kidney. We're looking for those heart, Sanjiao, and pericardium herbs, okay? So we mined a lot of the pericardium section for convergent channels, right? So now we're being systematic, mining pericardium, and then we'll do the heart, okay? All right, so, we already mined the Sanjiao out, right? Okay, so how would we do it in the clinic? So we'd use the same process that we're doing here, all right? But since we already know exactly what we're looking for when we're in the clinic, it can actually goes a lot faster. Okay, the reason why this is taking time to do in this way is we're just sort of assessing different possibilities and different probabilities, and we're going down each of these pathways. Wow, if we did this, where would it lead us? If we did that, where would it lead us? That's why it's taking so much time in this way, huh? But when you know exactly what you're looking for clinically, then you can find things very, very quickly, because you can just like discard everything that's not what you need, which is going to be virtually everything, except for one really narrow casted, or maybe one or two or maybe three possibilities, and then you learn how to discern and distinguish between those, okay? So I'm going through everything that has relevance. So I'm giving you actually years of experience in just a few hours here, okay? And we're reinforcing this process over and over again. So you can just go out and do it as easily as possible, all right? That's why it doesn't really matter that much how many of the channels we get through and how many of the categories we get through, okay? What matters here is understanding what we're doing and orienting ourselves to the process that we're doing, okay? Everything else is just details, okay? You're gonna need to be flexible anyway when it comes time to practice, okay? So if you've got questions, remember, ask them when we're here in the class, okay? Because when we're done, I'm gonna be off to having adventures, okay? So we'll find some way to give you more consistent feedback. But when we're done with this, you know, I'm gonna be off having adventures, and I probably won't be that near a computer or any cell phones, okay? So now's our chance to ask those questions, all right? So let's take a short break, and then we will come back and we'll do some pericardium convergences, all right? So we'll see you in 5 minutes or so.